Hello? Oh shit, I can hear myself. Alright. Alright. Let me just do some stuff real quick. That should be good enough, I think, right? Should be good enough. Just make sure everything works. You can see my mouse. You can indeed. That's good. That's good. Otherwise, it'd be kind of pointless. If you couldn't see my mouse, that would suck. See if I have everything with me that I need. Should have it. Should have it. Let's see, what time is it now? Can wait a little bit longer just to see if anybody decides to show up, and then if not, well, I guess I'll be doing this by myself then. That is fine. That is also fine. Hey, Valo. What up? I'm glad someone decided to show up. I was prepared for having to do this by myself, which would have been less fun, but, you know, it is what it is. Alright then. Yeah, it's been 5 minutes. I guess I can start explaining what we're actually doing here. Just to get started. So basically, the idea that I had, or rather, after all, since I've started a blog recently, mostly because it's a school project and I had to, I'm not really that big of a fan of blogs, so never really was my plan to do one, but studying marketing and all that, and then suddenly they were like, hey, you need to make a blog and market it, and I'm like, okay, cool. And one of the things we have to do doing that is to make an event of some sort. And I figured, well, what am I to do? What kind of event should I do? Easiest thing to do, I guess, would be to do a stream of some sort, so sure. And that got me on the idea that I've been recommending anime for a long time, but I never really get into it very much with it. Like, I mean, obviously I talk about stuff that I think about the anime and so whatnot, kind of touch on who I think the anime would be suited for and who it isn't suited for, but I never really sit down and think to myself, like, or go out of my way to go, like, if I were to rank the anime that I've recommended, like, what anime would I tell people to definitely watch, and what anime would be, like, more like, this is, this is good if you have nothing better to do, I guess. Because there are some of those. Like, generally, obviously, all the shows that I recommend, I enjoy in some way or another. But it's not like every show I recommend is a great show. So yeah. But it is what it is. But I guess we can just get started then. And so what I'm going to be doing essentially is, you can again hopefully see my mouse. I'm pretty sure. Basically, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going through these shows that I have here. I'm going to be telling you what shows they are, so don't worry. You don't have to, you don't have to recognize them. But they are all shows that I've talked about on this channel at some point. It's not every show I've talked about on this channel, but it should be most of them. And I'm basically just gonna go through them a little bit, talk a little bit about them, and yeah, where I would rank them. And so, essentially, starting up first, then we can start up with this one, which is Aim for the Ace. Aim for the Ace is, and just let me pull this up so that I make sure that I don't make a complete ass of myself. Aim for the Ace is a 26 episode TV series from the 70s. 1973 was when it started, and yeah, it's a Osamu Dezaki anime. It's a sports anime, it's a tennis anime, and it's very interesting, very shoujo. Definitely very shoujo. This is not, by the way, I haven't placed it anywhere here. This just to highlight which one it is I'm talking about. It's this one. And yeah, it is a, it's quite the fun show. Got a lot of the old 60s, especially 60s and 70s shoujo tropes in it. Such as Oni Coach. We've joked about that on the podcast a lot, actually. It's kind of funny seeing that come up. A coach that's very harsh, but generally it's a shoujo anime. It has tennis in it, and it's about being the best at tennis, I guess. Technically, it's about impressing boys, but whatever. It's quite the nice show. I do like it. I do like this show a lot. Oh yeah. I mean, it's obvious. It speaks for itself. It says so in the things. But the list will be basically going from like the highest, which is why haven't you watched this already? Like, yeah, why haven't you watched this already? If you haven't, and if you have, then good. Must watch. Basically, shows that I would highly consider checking out. Highly recommended. It's kind of same, but slightly lower. It's like I don't necessarily think it's a must watch, but it's definitely something you should look into. Should consider watching. Again, it goes more into that, like, you have your list, you have the shows that you seek out, like you have these are the ones, the ones you should watch, these are the ones that are absolutely worth your time, and then you have the ones that are a little bit lower, like they're absolutely worth watching, but maybe not necessarily the first thing you put up on your thing. And yeah, on your watching order, I guess. And then last but not least, we have watch if you have seen all the other ones, which is obvious. It's not something should be prioritized. It's something that you should watch if you haven't seen it and you've seen everything else I recommended. That's basically it. Or of course, you can always do the third option and completely ignore everything I say. That's also completely valid. But yeah, nah. Aim for the Ace. Fun shoujo tennis anime, but not necessarily one that I would say. It's got more historical value, I would say, than like being straight up like really good. So if I were to put it anywhere, I would definitely put it on should consider watching. I'm sure there are people out there that will agree with me. It is a classic, but it isn't necessarily one that I would say should be first up on your list. You could sway me to say that it could go up and highly recommended, but for my tastes, I would say that it is. It's not that high, but it should be watched. You plan to watch most of these? That's good. That is good. Like I said, they are generally pretty good shows. They offer varying, they are varying quality. They offer different things, but and some are definitely more worth it than others. But yeah. Next up is, again, Akage no An. I've mentioned this. I mentioned this on the podcast. I mentioned this in videos. We've talked about this quite a few times. It is an absolute classic. An absolute classic of a show from 1979. And yeah, it is based on a children's story by Lucy Maud Montgomery, of course. Canadian story. Quite famous. And yeah, it's a slice of life. It's a slice of life show. I'm a big fan of slice of life shows, especially like coming of age stories and whatnot. And it's kind of hard to ignore. Nippon Animation, we're talking like World Masterpiece Theater back in the day, which was a big thing they used to do, where they took like classic literature and they made shows out of them, basically. They made anime out of them. It's arguably, again, I've gushed about this show so many times. It's arguably one of the best coming of age stories I've ever seen, and I highly praise how it uses time, just because of how watching Anne Shirley grow up, starting as an 11-year-old and eventually becoming 17. It's like watching her grow up and kind of how that is portrayed, like the early stages, small orphan, very very skinny, very small, not very like, how do you say it? Like very very weird, I guess, would be the best way to describe her. Questioning stuff like children does. And just sort of everything that happens, they put such an emphasis on everything, so it feels very slow. And then you get into that halfway point, and everything changes. Now you're in a rhythm. Everything is settled. She is settled. She is growing up. Everything is kind of starting to move along. And before you know it, suddenly many years have passed, and things are changing. It's quite the great story. It's absolutely amazing, and the anime is definitely no slouch there either. Like I said, I do highly recommend it. It is, in my opinion, one of the best slice of life and one of the best coming of age stories I've ever seen in an anime, and yeah, so unsurprisingly, I would definitely put it up there. There aren't that many 70s shows that I would highly recommend, because the 70s is one of those times for me in anime where it's like you have one show that is very good, and then you have a lot of shows that are not very good. Like that is basically my experience with the 70s so far. The classics stand out because they are amazing. The rest, yeah, it could be better. It could be a lot better. And next up we have Akira. Of course we have Akira. We can't not talk about Akira. Akira is one of those movies that, the motorcycle scene, it's a classic. Most people have seen it, I will assume. And if you haven't, you probably aren't interested in it. I'm going to go ahead and say that. I know there's a lot of people who are sort of have something against Akira, mostly in the sense that, like, it doesn't technically finish. I know the manga there's a manga for it as well, and I know that fleshes out the story more. So it is one of those where it's like, the movie isn't necessarily perfect. It's highly lauded for its visuals. Definitely highly lauded for its visuals. But as far as like, as far as anything else goes, like the story, it's a good story. It is a good story. It's an interesting story. But it is also one of those shows or movies that definitely kind of hit a stride in the 80s with the with kind of showing like adult cartoons, if that makes sense. Like, it was it was a shock to some to see how out there this could get, how just straight up violent it was. So that is definitely one of those things that initially piqued people, sparked people's interest in it. But even still, even now, it still looks amazing. It's a good show, good movie. Stop saying show. Not everything's a show. But yeah, pretty good. And I would definitely say that it is a must-watch. Like, I know there are people that are going to disagree. There are people that won't think that this is a must-watch show. That's fine. Movie. That's fine. But for me, this is definitely one of those anime that are a must-watch. Next up, we have Angel's Egg. Angel's Egg, man. Every anime elitist's favorite anime. Can't even recall how many times I've heard people talk about this show. The underrated Angel's Egg. Amazing story. It's so surreal. Obviously, Mamoru Oshii's silent movie. The themes, there's so much going on there. You could dissect it forever. And, you know, of course, critics will also go in and say that it has something that, you know, how much of it is genuinely trying to tell you stuff, and how much is just kind of spinning it is a bit up in the air. Mamoru Oshii does not claim to say there's too much in there, but he's also, I guess he has something against this. This did technically also almost ruin his career back in the day, so, you know. But it is definitely an interesting show. Yeah. Visually quite out there. It's gothic in style. Being a silent show, of course, it's not something that, at least now, we get too much of. Right now, obviously being a silent show, it's more of a stylistic choice than anything else. It's not like still back in the day with silent movies where there wasn't really much of an option. So yeah, but it is quite interesting. It is definitely wacky, definitely out there. Do I consider it a must-watch? Yes, I would say I do. Must-watch, it is, again, it is just such an experience. You won't really find many things out there like Angel's Egg. It isn't similar to a lot of other shows. It's very much its own thing. A lot of religious themes, of course, but in general, there's just a lot of stuff to like about this. And yeah, it's not the sort of stuff you can go out and be like, oh, I really enjoyed Angel's Egg. Let me go and find another show that's like this. You won't find too much. Alright, and up next, we have, hard to tell because this head is cut off, but you know, Ashita no Joe. And Ashita no Joe is yet another 70s show. So, and when I say Ashita no Joe, I do mean the entire thing. So that would technically be both the 70s and 80s version. Ashita no Joe 2 as well. But yeah. Ashita no Joe is a boxing anime, and it's one of the earliest boxing anime. As a matter of fact, it came out like a year after Star the Giant, I think, which is often considered the first ever sports anime. So, but in general, it's such a classic. You can't really escape it because Ashita no Joe has laid the groundworks for a lot of modern sports anime. Hajime no Ippo is obviously another boxing anime that is very good. One of my all-time favorite anime, actually. And you can clearly tell watching Hajime no Ippo how much Ashita no Joe has actually influenced it. And that's quite something to see. And despite being, first part being from the 70s and second part being from the 80s, but despite the fact that the first part is from the 70s, you do realize that a lot of the animation is quite limited. But the way the story is told, the way everything is built up, the way fights are built up, it still manages to evoke this feeling of when you actually watch them fight, it means something. And you kind of find yourself kind of on the edge of your seat, being like, "Holy shit, I'm excited for this fight," which is it's one thing in Hajime no Ippo where the fights are generally pretty decently animated, but to have that happen in in a show like Ashita no Joe where the fights are still pretty limited in terms of what they actually show. So it's quite neat that that a show from the 70s can still evoke that reaction in me and in others. And yeah, it's just in general as well. The foreshadowing in this show, some of the best foreshadowing I've seen in any anime, to be honest. It just taking seemingly pointless everyday sentences sometimes, like just sort of two enemies bickering at each other, kind of making fun of each other, and then suddenly, many episodes later, that very thing they joked about back in the day came true. And that is strange. That's a strange feeling. That is odd to kind of have that little moment where you're like, wait a minute. That was actually foreshadowing and not just like random conversation. So, yeah. Hi, Cosmos. Cosmox, sorry. And yeah, Ashita no Joe, again, no surprise there for me. Like, I would say that it's a, not just a must watch, but it is one of those shows where it's like, you should already have watched it. And if you haven't, what are you doing? You gotta get on that. It's fairly long. 70 episodes on the first one. 79, I think, right? 79, yes. 79 episodes on the first one, and the second one is 47, so almost 50. So it is a decently long show, but yeah, no, it is a decently long show, but like a lot of the ending of the first one is also redone in the second series, so you technically don't have to watch all 79 episodes of the first season. Let's see. Are you a fan of Otaku Spirit? So, I'm not gonna get too much into that. I was on the Otaku Spirit forums back in the day. So, at a certain point in time, yes, but kind of some stuff has happened quite a while ago, and yeah. So, I wouldn't call myself a fan of Otaku Spirit, no. But I'm not gonna get into more of that. That's more personal stuff. And yeah. Then we have Barefoot Gen. Barefoot Gen. You know, this one is definitely one of those movies. More so the first one than the second one, but Barefoot Gen is definitely one of those movies that are it's a shock for a lot of people, because Barefoot Gen is based on a manga. I think it's a manga, right? Yeah, it's a manga. It's based on a manga that is about World War II Japan, when the nuke was dropped on them. You know, kind of being right up in there. And the shock from this one sort of comes from the very graphic scene from the first movie when the nuke is dropped. You know, before that, it's sort of like kind of what you would expect, what it's like living in war times. You have poverty, you have like government sanctioned coupons for food and stuff like that, and just stuff being rationed out. Obviously, the wealthy sort of getting by, the black market being very, very popular. And yeah, that is that's kind of the big sort of appeal on this, though, is the fact that, like, it is sort of the shock of it. It is hearing the story, although yes, it has been dramatized. It isn't exactly a one-to-one story, of course, but kind of hearing that, like, imagining what it would be like actually experiencing the nuclear bomb, because hearing about it, learning about it, and seeing the absolutely devastating impact of a nuke is quite, you know, it's quite shocking. So to have a movie like this that is literally putting us right in it and showing us in very gruesome detail what it was like being caught in that thing. That is very scary, and that is the strength of Barefoot Gen. The second movie is a lot calmer, and it sort of deals more with the aftermath, the sort of long-term ramifications of everything. Radiation sickness, obviously, being one. But yeah, no, it's an absolutely heartbreaking movie in a lot of cases, and just it's quite interesting. And I'm struggling a little bit between whether or not I would put it on must-watch or highly recommended. I would probably put it a highly recommended, and the only reason for that is because of that graphic. Portrayal of just, well, death and the horrible stuff that happened to a lot of those people. What do you consider retro? Does it just mean old? Retro is a term that's hard to define. Actually, as a matter of fact, I remember looking up definition for the term retro, and the best ones I could get is technically comes from fashion. But retro in fashion doesn't necessarily refer to something being old. It refers to sort of the style of something that looks like it could have belonged to a different era. So, wearing something that looks like it comes straight out of 2010s in 2020 is technically considered retro, as far as fashion is concerned. The definition we've always used for retro on the Red Leaf Retrocast podcast, and so sort of adopted the same thing for this channel, is 15 years or older to the year. 15 years comes from the fact that I remember reading not a study, but I remember reading like analytics and whatnot, and the average age of anime fans, at least at the time, was roughly 15 years old. So we figured 15 was a good cutoff point, and it also gave us like this nice little Naruto's retro, yeah. It also gave us this benchmark, right? Because it's kind of nice when you're a retro podcast, if you sort of hard stick to that, like a lot of people will do, the 90s limit, if that makes sense, right? Everything post 90s is not retro. Everything pre 90s is retro. You sort of end up with this problem eventually, where you run out of content to talk about, because there's only so many 90s anime you can talk about. There's only so many 80s anime you can talk about. There's only so many 70s anime you can even find. So, you sort of have that problem. But with the with having a moving board that constantly updates every year, we sort of avoid that issue by having being able to update what we can talk about and whatnot. It doesn't necessarily come into play that often. Probably should come into play more often, to be honest, because sometimes it is hard to figure out what we're gonna do next. But yeah, nah. I do like the 15-year limit. It makes sense for me. And as much as people wanna be as much as people don't want to admit that 2000 stuff is getting old, we are in 2020 right now. We are in 2022, actually. Things are moving forward. Shows from the 2000s are old enough to drink. So yeah. Even higher, the Ippo and Akira needs to be at the top. I mean, it is very acclaimed. I do agree. Like, this isn't that's not really what I mean. The thing for me with Akira is, again, the fact that, like, talking about specifically the movie here, the animation and cell shading was in fact ahead of its time. Yes, it's like, again, I've talked about this. Akira is still one of those movies where it's like, you watch it now and it still looks good. Like, that's pretty incredible. I do see why you would put it at the top. I can definitely agree with it to a certain extent. I still think there is this problem with the movie where it technically isn't complete. There is more to it. There's more to the story, specifically in the manga. And that hurts it a little bit. So for me, I would say it's... But it's a toss-up. It's hard. Maybe it should be at the top. We'll come back to it. We'll think about it. We'll let it marinate. This list isn't set yet. We still have a lot of stuff to go through. Have you seen a Red Fist of the North Star? I have seen parts of Fist of the North Star, not all of it. Fist of the North Star is it's quite funny, but it's also it is definitely an interesting show. I personally grew tired of it after a little while because I find the whole gimmick with the with the whole martial arts and people exploding and whatnot, the pressure points and whatnot. I grew tired of that a little bit after a while, but it is definitely a show that I kind of want to revisit just to see if I can continue it, because it is an interesting show for sure. Very censored, very censored. Fist of the North Star, so good, kind of reminds me of Madden. Yeah, I can see that. Will you upload this later? I would like to watch it after sleeping. I don't think I will upload the stream, but I am planning on sort of editing this down. So yeah, you might see a video of this eventually. But well, I'll think about that. None of that is going to be done until I finish my exam. So I don't know when that would happen. Maybe I just do post a stream, but we'll see. I'll make up my mind. But anyways, I'm going to continue. Yeah. Next up, Beck Mongolian Chop Squad. And I will never call it Mongolian Chop Squad. Music anime. Having been in a... Okay. I feel like everybody that talks about the show always says that. Having been in a band, it wasn't that serious. It was a school band mostly, like me and a couple of classmates. I also took guitar lessons, and we sort of took a band lesson then. So I got paired together with random people, and we played in a band. So, you know, not very seriously. I'm not going to sit there and say that I lived Beck. Beck was my life. But sort of having had that experience, there's a lot of stuff that that I relate to with Beck. There's a lot of stuff that I enjoy, and just in general, the sort of the English lyrics and the Japanese dub, you know, kind of weird, but it works out. It's a nice little ode to classic rock. There's a lot of stuff to enjoy about this. Bit teen drama at times, yes, but in general, it's quite a nice show, honestly. Haven't heard of Beck in a while. Yeah, yeah, it's definitely not the sort of show that people will bring up too often. No joke, after I watched K-On! In high school, I decided to make a pop-punk band, and it was somewhat good, which I think is crazy, right? It's kind of weird how stuff like that can inspire you to do something. I've had that happen many times. Like, I remember watching Kuroko no Basket back in the day, and it was just like, man, I have never played basketball seriously in my life, but suddenly I got this strange need to go out and just play some basketball. But then I tried to actually play basketball, and it turns out that I'm actually quite garbage at it, and you know, and it's like, man, real life sucks. But yeah, nah, it's definitely interesting. As far as music anime, I would say it's one of my favorites. It definitely is. Would I consider it a must-watch? I don't think I would, no. It's one show that I would highly recommend, and it is good. But it is also one of those shows where I feel like it is also kind of situational. Do you enjoy... I mean, first of all, obviously you have to enjoy music. That's kind of the point. But you also have to deal with a lot of other stuff. A lot of like interpersonal stuff. A lot of conflict. A lot of weird tropes. A lot of, you know, heavily focused on classic rock especially. But just in general, punk. A lot of that scene. And it's just, if that's not your thing... then I can see Beck being a little bit of an issue. I'm just going to take this in English, but no, Norwegian is not my second language. It is my first language, actually. English is my second language. I was born in Norway and raised here and lived my entire life here. I agree. It's recommended music. Anime can be touchy and get too philosophical, I think. Yeah, sometimes it can be. Definitely. So yeah, all right. Belladonna of Sadness. Speaking of, I mean, we already talked about Angel's Egg, but oh, that is the pretentious anime anime fans' favorite anime. But Belladonna of Sadness. Talk about an art house movie. That's I don't know what I would call Belladonna of Sadness. It is listed as hentai for good reason. It is very, very sexual. Now, its sexuality sort of makes sense in plot, but I mean, sort of. It is a big part of the plot, and it definitely does make it a very interesting watch. But at the same time, it is definitely off-putting if you're not into that sort of stuff. Hold on, let me rephrase the word. I'm not going to sit here and say people are into rape, but it is like if you are okay with those sorts of themes in your anime, you don't mind sort of having that as part of a plot. Belladonna of Sadness can be quite interesting. If you are very much against this, well, then this movie wouldn't even be on this list to begin with. It would be on that far down on the hell no, stay away. It's not. It's definitely very divisive. Do you add people on Mal? I did for a while. Then I started getting a couple of just ads that were like kind of just that people were just adding me, didn't say anything, which feels a little bit weird sometimes. So I don't know. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. If you're going to add me on Mal, send me a message at least. Yo, anime Top Scholar, it was so much fun talking with you. Unfortunately, I have to get started on my own YouTube vids. I wish you the best and keep making videos and the live stream. Let's go. Get to 1 mil. Thank you. Good luck with your own stuff, by the way. Yeah, 1 mil. That is never happening. But thank you. All right. So, yeah. Belladonna of Sadness. I'm stuck somewhere between should consider watching and watch if you've seen all the others. I'm going to put it on should consider watching now, and I'll keep thinking about it. Because, again, like I said, it is going to be very divisive because of its themes. And then, of course, Berserk. We have talked about Berserk before. And the 90s Berserk specifically because... Do you want me to add you on Mal? I mean, again, like I said, if you're going to add me on Mal, just send me a message. Send a friend request and send a message. I'll respond to you. So yeah, we'll take it from there. But yeah, Berserk it's a 90s classic, and I mean, it is by many considered one of the best mangas ever made. Now, as far as the anime is concerned, I didn't enjoy it. Yeah, see that's what I mean as well, right? When I mentioned Akira, just to go back to that. Akira is a sort of movie that for some people they don't like it. Like it's not for them, and that I do understand that. It is a classic, but it isn't for everyone. Definitely not. So I can understand why some people just don't relate to it at all or don't find it that good. But yeah, personally for me, I do find it to be very good, and I definitely put it very high. Yeah, no, like I said, I understand. Like I said, we will definitely discuss more about this later as well. So yeah, it is my list. No, I'm glad you're weighing in. That's definitely good. Definitely good. Because it is, I do like to hear what you guys think as well. Even if I am the one who is ultimately putting this together, I'm not gonna sit here and say like, I do like that you guys are actually chiming in. Hey, will you re-upload this? I will put it out. I don't know if I'm just gonna let the VOD stay up or if I'm going to edit it down to a video. The plan was to edit it down to a video, but yeah. The plan was to edit it down to a video, but I will have to sort of look into how much time I have, because right now I'm technically very busy. I'm working on exams and stuff like that, so it probably won't happen right now, but at some point. But I will decide on that after I'm done with this stream. But yeah, Berserk. 90s anime, very good, very popular. Not as good as the manga. Hard to be. Sort of the big thing against Berserk all the time is the fact that Berserk is hard to adapt, man. It is very, very hard to adapt. The 90s version is by many considered probably the best attempt, but the Berserk version also has flaws. It lacks in certain areas. Production-wise, animation-wise, it is not the greatest. It's got nice backgrounds, but it's got a lot of cutaway shots and stuff like that and whatnot. But it is probably the best attempt we've ever seen. Way better than 2016 or 2017. It is. Gotta read the manga. Heard it was good. Yeah. Okay, that was a must watch in terms of animation and art, not writing characters. Let me try. Yeah, art and character. Yeah, I can definitely see that. Art and characters being. The art is definitely not standard, and the characters are a little. They sort of belong to that era of anime where they weren't afraid to kind of make characters that you won't necessarily like. It's the kind of same thing when talking about Ashita no Joe earlier. Joe from Ashita no Joe is an absolute piece of shit. And you probably won't like him very much for a lot of it. Because he loves making enemies with everyone, especially people that try to help him, because god damn it, he will not accept anyone's help for anything. He can be very rough to handle sometimes, but it makes sense given his background. Mr. Bird Lady, my favorite Devilman, Mr. Bird Lady OVA movie. Yeah, nice. I just really never got over the problem some people here with the characters knock it out. I mean, again, it's very personal. It's very personal. Some people do have problems with it, with the characters. Others don't. It completely depends on what you're looking for. What you can take, what you handle, what type of character you like. I would definitely put Berserk on highly recommended, though. Like, it is. I have issues with it personally, but at the same time, I do think it is worth watching. It is definitely worth watching, but as pretty much anyone will tell you, you should read the manga. That's your best bet. And then we have Birdy the Mighty. Birdy the Mighty. Birdy the Mighty. Birdy the Mighty. Birdy the Mighty is an OVA from the 90s. 96, 97. 4 episodes. Not talking about Decode here specifically, but Birdy the Mighty. And yeah, kind of odd sci-fi, very weird, very wacky, decent animation, nice fight scenes, some absolutely lovely fight scenes, and a lot of comedy. Some of it hits, a lot of it misses. It doesn't take itself too seriously. So yeah. This is one of those shows that I will definitely put here on the watch if you have seen all the others, because I enjoy Birdy. Birdy is fun. Birdy is fun. But I wouldn't say it has enough substance to be worth kind of like putting over a lot of the other ones. It lacks a little bit of that. It is a fun show. It is fun. It's short, and that's to its benefit. But you don't need to watch this one. It's not a must-watch by any means. I wouldn't even highly recommend it. The birth is. Yeah, like I said, it is fun. I do enjoy it. I do enjoy Birdy, but it isn't. It isn't necessarily what I would consider a must-watch. It is one of those things where it's like you sort of, as you work your way down, you get into like the OVAs, you get into like, okay, what's some interesting stuff that no one will like technically go out of their way to be like, oh, you absolutely need to watch this one. This is Birdy. That's a show that everybody sleeps. And it's like, yeah, said, it's fun. It's fun. there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being a fun show. Thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoy my content. It's been sad being away for so long, but it happens. Bad time management and whatnot, and just suddenly, it's sort of easy to be like, I'm just gonna take a couple days break, and suddenly it's been a month. So yeah, it's not the greatest, but hopefully I'll be back to somewhat of a regular schedule. But next up, we have Bubblegum Crisis. Bubblegum Crisis. Definitely a bit of a love-hate relationship with this one, this 80s OVA. It is entertaining to an extent. It is very entertaining at times. But at other times, I don't find this to be that great, to be honest. Like, there is just something about the substance in this one that kind of leaves me wanting. There isn't... The plot is fairly simplistic, and the fact that it ultimately ends in a very non-satisfactory way is not to its benefit at all. But yeah, so I would definitely put that as watch if you've seen all the other ones. Birdy is not, for me at least, it is not one of those OVAs that I think that I will, like, you see people recommend it all the time, but for me it doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't do enough for me to, like, sit there and be like, this is definitely a good show. This is definitely worth your time. It's not that long, so it's not like it is completely a waste of time, but yeah. Have you seen the Birdy TV series from like 2007? And if so, what's your take on that? Was wondering if it was worth checking out. No, I haven't seen that one yet, sadly. It has been one of those shows that I've said that I was going to watch, but I also have like 300 other shows on my list that I've said that I was going to watch at some point and still haven't. So, you know, don't hold me to it. Maybe I will do it one day, and maybe if I do, maybe I will talk about it. But for now, no, I haven't seen it. I don't have an opinion on it. Cat's Eye. Cat's Eye. Cat's Eye. Cat's Eye. Cat's Eye. 1983. Tsukasa Hojo. Mangaka. Creator of City Hunter. City Hunter is quite good. City Hunter is not on this list because I haven't talked about City Hunter yet. I want to do it, but I also want to watch more City Hunter. We did watch the first one for the podcast, however, so if anybody's interested in that, you can go check that out on Red Leaf Retrocast Animecast. Yeah. But Cat's Eye, I mean, again, if you've watched my channel, you know that I like Lupin. And what is Cat's Eye? Cat's Eye is Lupin, but with a female main cast. It's not so much, you know. It's basically just these girls trying to sort of steal back their lost father. His father, or their father, has gone into hiding, and he was an art collector back in the day. So they're sort of reclaiming his treasure, his art, in hopes that they will find him one day. And then hijinks ensues, a lot of interpersonal relationship stuff. Main character sort of trying to hide the fact that she's a thief from her boyfriend, who is a police assigned to the Cat's Eye case, stuff like that. It's funny. It uses a lot of the same stuff that makes Lupin fun, and yeah. But it tries to spin its own sort of take on it, and I do enjoy that. I do enjoy that. It is not perfect, however. It doesn't end, so that is a shame. In the anime, it doesn't end, and it doesn't even try to answer its. It doesn't even try to answer its own sort of big thing, because the start of it is basically, all right, our lost father, he's hiding somewhere. We got a message from him. He's gone into hiding, and we want to know where he is. Any sort of any sort of conclusion to that? Any sort of hints? Any sort of nothing? No, it just ends. It ends on a play. Actually, it's kind of kind of weird, kind of wacky. So for me, I would definitely put this here. Watch if you've seen all the other ones. It's kind of long, draws out. It's again, it doesn't end. It sort of always sticks to its routine. It's got nice nice character interactions. I do like the way the characters act with each other. I do like the sort of relationship that everybody has going, and it is fun. But I definitely wouldn't say that it is as good as something like Lupin, but it is definitely worth watching if you like Lupin-esque shows. So also it's related to City Hunter. Yes, it is. Harass me if I'm wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure City Hunter and City Hunter and Cat's Eye takes place in the same universe because of the latest like movie that came out, right? They were pretty sure Cat's Eye showed up in that. City Hunter was written before. Cat's Eye was written before City Hunter. Do you watch anime with Norwegian subs or English subs? Don't really find a lot of anime with Norwegian subs, to be honest. So, no, I watch anime with English subs. Most of my stuff is consumed in English subs. I don't really watch dubs. I've done it a couple times. I'll mostly watch dubs on rewatch if I rewatch something, just to kind of like see what that is like. But for the most part, I'm not a big fan of dubs. You've seen the Lupin movie by Hayao Miyazaki. Oh yeah, Castle of Cagliostro. Yeah, a lot of people like that one. A lot of people recommend that one. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I think it's definitely not a bad movie by any means, but it isn't the Lupin that I enjoy the most. And, but yeah. Anyways. Next up, Cipher. Cipher is 80s the anime. Like Cipher the video, it is absolutely safe to say that this, I don't even need to drag that out, this one goes here. Because like, could honestly put it even further down. Like, Cipher is not particularly good, although I do regret one thing making the video. Because making the video on this, I wasn't aware of the fact that there was a difference between the like VHS version and the Laserdisc version. And after having seen the Laserdisc version, it definitely solves a lot of the issues I have with the VHS version of this. But man, it still doesn't change the fact that this is a glorified music video and MTV style interviews, and it is an 80s anime, and it's loving it. This thing just loves the fact that it's from the 80s. And I rate that, actually. I do like it. I do like the fact that it is so just unashamed of being 80s, and it loves it. And again, it has arguably one of the best soundtracks in anime. I mean, yeah, whether it's taking music directly from Footloose or giving us some Phil Collins, like, it's just, the music is pretty goddamn good. And that is the best part about this OVA. Everything except for that, not worth it. Not worth it in the slightest. Cowboy Bebop. Everybody's. Most people's introduction to anime. It was my introduction to anime. I rate this very highly. I'm highly biased. Is it overrated? Yeah, probably is. Do I care? Not really. I still like it. I still like it a lot. It's episodic style. It's such a classic for me that, again, it 100% bias. You could definitely argue for it being lower, but god damn it, I love this. The animation, the fight scenes, even the episodic nature. The only anime that I've still to this day only seen in dub. And it is I mean, it is the anime to watch dubbed. There are other good dubs out there, definitely, but this is like Black Lagoon. Black Lagoon dub is another good one, but this is like the anime dub that you have to watch, and it's just, it has a special place. It will always have a special place, and even though, we have a lot of people coming up now that sort of look back on it and with unfavorable eyes, kind of getting up into anime now and being like, huh, that's the best you could do out in the 90s. It's still like, come on. It's fun. It's fun. It's okay to be biased to Bebop. Yep. Netflix did it better. That was a joke, by the way. What do you mean? Netflix always does it better. Every Netflix adaptation is better, said no one, ever. So yeah, Cowboy Bebop, instant classic. This one, Crusher Joe. I actually have a list here with every anime just to make sure I'm not messing up. Kind of impressed by myself that I haven't looked at it yet. I still remember what's in here. A friend watched Cowboy Bebop a few months ago and loved it. Someday I will. I mean, again, yeah, definitely do go and check it out. I can't say it's gonna be for everybody, but I do rate it a lot. A lot of people do rate it a lot, so it is a good show. Essentially, it was kind of the same for me actually. A lot of people that I was following at the time sort of just kept talking about Cowboy Bebop, and at this point I had a passing idea of what anime was, but I wasn't into anime at the time. So I was just like getting annoyed at everybody going like, what is Cowboy Bebop this, Cowboy Bebop that? And I was like, all right, fine, I'll figure out what this thing is. And then I ended up watching it, and here I am, some 8 years later, making videos on YouTube, doing a stream, rating anime, goddamn, on a tier list. We are, how far we have fallen. But yeah, Crusher Joe. Crusher Joe sort of belongs in the, it belongs in the same universe as, Dirty Pair. And it's sort of the same style, kind of like action-y, corny, 80s action movie type stuff. You get some nice fight scenes. You get some decent animation. You get very teenagers being teenagers, but also loaded with guns and doing a lot of damage to to a lot of stuff. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun to watch. But it is not one that I would say that people should watch. It is definitely one that you could consider watching. Have you watched a lot of other stuff? But yeah, no. The actual quality of the story can be debated. It's not the greatest story in the world. It's just a lot of fun. I'm watching anime frequently for 2 years already, and not Cowboy Bebop yet. I know it was an early anime for a lot of people. Like, yeah, I mean, like, I'm definitely not gonna give anybody shit for not having seen anything, because like, like I said, I've watched anime now for 8 years, I think, 9 years, I guess. Yeah, 9 years, coming up on 9 years. Jesus Christ! Although I haven't watched much this last year or 2 years. Holy shit! I'm out of it. I'm getting old. But yeah, no, it is. There's still a lot of anime that I haven't seen that people will definitely raise an eyebrow over. Obviously, the amount of people I've talked to that just sort of, your casual anime fan that will come up to me and be like, what do you think of One Piece? And I just go like, I haven't really watched that much of One Piece. Only watched like 50 episodes. And it's just like, man. that is very weird. And there's a lot of that. For a lot of people, Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, they got into anime there. I didn't. So I sort of skipped that era completely. But yeah. Totally disagree. At least for the movie, the Crusher Joe movie is easily on the level of the other 80s classics. Like I would put it above Akira, but beneath Path Labor movies. Okay. Personally, I watch whatever the fuck I want, regardless of what people think. I mean, and I respect that. That's the sort of stuff that I've basically been doing. Like, when I first got into anime, like, it's still weird to say because I'm doing retro anime stuff, and then I'm like, I got into anime in 2013. It isn't technically true. I watched anime before that, but I didn't get properly into anime until 2013. And yeah, it is. So it is kind of. I completely lost my train of thought. I started reading comments. God damn it. But yeah, like, so when I got into anime, that was what I was gonna say. I started going to YouTube and getting recommendations from there, which was just to get me started. But yeah, you do sort of hit that point kind of fast, at least if you have more than a mild interest in anime, then you do sort of get to that point where it's like, all right, cool, this is what people like, but what are these other things that no one talks about? And it's always fun to discover a show that no one talks about. Crusher Joe OVAs are mid. Yeah. Movie's good. I mean, yeah, like I said, I don't dislike the movie at all. I actually do think it's quite good. I enjoy it a lot. I don't know. I personally would have a hard time recommending it to people, but hey, again, that is literally just my opinion. Devilman. There's a lot of Devilman. 1972 Devilman, any of the OVAs. Especially, of course, the newest one, Devilman Crybaby. Devilman Crybaby, I enjoy a lot. I love Devilman Crybaby. Now, because this is technically retro anime, I can't include that because that wouldn't be retro. It's too modern. It doesn't fit into my other category, which would then mean that I would have to put it somewhere else. The difficulty for me is that it would depend. If I were to say the original Devilman anime, should you watch that one? I would say absolutely not. It's not very good. As a matter of fact, it isn't even based on Devilman. So it's episodic, monster of the week type stuff. It's got some funny interactions. Belt being the best character in that anime, but that's a whole different story for another time. But yeah, it's not very good. That's an anime, it is, at least. Only if you enjoy 60s Batman, yeah. Oh yeah. But the OVAs, especially the Amon OVA, I enjoy that a lot. It's a lot grittier, a lot more serious, but it is also a lot more short form. So yeah, but again, it is Devilman obviously being extremely violent. So that is also something to take into consideration if you're not into like gore and stuff like that. Then especially the OVAs and of course Crybaby. Not exactly something you should be looking into because this is what you get. It's a Go Nagai story. Gore is sort of par for the course. Even though a lot of times the anime tends to be more gory than his manga were, but you know, 60s. So yeah, if I have to put Devilman anywhere, I'd probably put it on should consider watching just because, like, again, 72 anime, it's like way down. The OVAs and whatnot, I would put it higher, so I think I'd probably highly recommend it. So yeah, probably gonna just balance it out and put it on should consider watching. Welcome back. I don't know what you mean. I think it depends on how much you like pulp space action movies. Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And then we have my classic, my childhood here. Everybody grew up loving Pokemon. I grew up loving Digimon. Not to say that I didn't watch Pokemon. I did get up at like 7 a.m. every Saturday just to watch Pokemon because it was on the children's programming block, and that started early in the morning on Saturdays. But to me, Pokemon was fun, but Digimon offered something more in terms of a more interesting story. Now, I've rewatched Digimon as an adult, and I can definitely say that the story isn't as interesting as an adult, but it is still kind of interesting. It still has a lot to do, and I mean, a lot of weird themes that you don't normally expect from from what you, or at least at the time, I considered just children's cartoons, like, you know, dealing with divorce, like being children of divorced parents, for example. It's not highly looked into, but that is a thing in the show, and it does add a little bit more to it. Overall, in general, I just think it's kind of interesting. And depending on who you are, I would definitely recommend watching it. But it is still a children's anime. It's a children's story with some mature themes sprinkled. Yep, it's not a children's anime. So you'll be forgiven for being, 40 years old deciding to check out Digimon and being like, man, this isn't interesting at all. Yeah. It does, however, at least in the Japanese version, not the English version, goddamn. The Japanese version has arguably one of, at least my favorite, one of the best opening songs in anime. I really do enjoy Butterfly, even though they do overuse it. But that is something completely different. I don't know. Should consider watching, or highly recommended. Probably on should consider watching, because like, it is still a children's story, but I do enjoy it. I do enjoy it a lot. Compared to Tamer's Betrayed being a mature story. Yeah, I know that Digimon has some of that as well. Like, Digimon from back then and Digimon now are a bit different, though they do still do like children's stories and whatnot. I tried watching the new Digimon. I didn't get very far into it before I just lost interest. So that was a bit disappointing, but whatever. But yeah, I think I'll put Digimon on should consider watching. Like, again, take your own tolerance for children's anime into consideration. Like, if you don't like children's anime, then don't bother. If you don't necessarily mind it, then I think Digimon is one of the better ones out there, and is one that should be considered watching. But maybe not necessarily the first thing you put on. You know, if you have options, on any of these, and hell, even some others, you could easily put them before. And yeah, Excel Saga. Excel Saga is difficult, because Excel Saga is comedy. Straight up comedy. It's ha-ha funny. Like, we are talking otaku jokes, we are talking like otaku culture, we're talking just all kinds of silliness. Just blown up to the extreme. It is not... It is its own kind of thing. In a lot of cases, we have seen sort of shows like this, sort of like parody-ish shows before. We've seen them later. It's nothing revolutionary in any way, but but it is quite fun. I enjoy it a lot. I got a lot of laughs out of this. I'm not the sort of person who laughs too much at sort of anime comedies because, well, it's anime comedies, and I'm not Japanese. A lot of Japanese humor goes over my head because it's not something I grew up with, and half the time I missed a joke anyway, so... But Excel Saga is fairly easy to figure out. And, you know, again, the more anime you watched, especially older anime, obviously older anime before this came out, the more you can start to appreciate the jokes. Whether it be Excel sort of ranting about her previous job as Sailor Moon, you know, stuff like that. It's the sort of stuff that you don't, that, like, if you're not into that type of that scene, that time, it can sort of easily fly by. So I would also put this on should consider watching. I enjoyed it a lot. Very good. Comedy. Definitely not for everyone. But man, it's a fun time. Then we have FLCL. FLCL for me is sort of a strange one. Now, I haven't seen FLCL in a long time. Just let that be made clear. And I've also not seen the newer FLCL that came out. So, but the original FLCL from 2000, 6-episode OVA, is definitely a good one. I enjoyed watching it, even its immature humor. It's very fun. But this is also one of those things for me where it's very, I wouldn't say divisive necessarily, but I feel like you have sort of, for a lot of people that watched FLCL, you have sort of two types of people. You have the people that watched FLCL and enjoyed it, and then you have the people that watched FLCL and they worship this thing, like the second coming of Christ. That is definitely not where I am on this thing. I don't think it's that good. But I do enjoy it. And maybe that is just my ignorance. Maybe I'm missing something. That is very possible. But, yeah. It is definitely very good. And I would highly recommend it. Again, 6 episodes. 6 episodes, 25 minutes each episode. It is definitely worth your time. Not a huge commitment. Very good. Very good. I'm trying to watch Excel Saga when I was like 12. It was one of those anime ones that you needed to watch back then. But I don't watch a few episodes, I think. Seems funny though. I mean, yeah, I can see that. Like, again, it is as much as I hate to be like, you have to get it, but like, you have to have enough knowledge of that time period to sort of understand why something is funny, but at the end of the day, it is still just absurdist humor a lot of the time, and how everything is just so over the top. So it's like, if you don't like over the top nosebleeds, right? For example, well, you're gonna get a lot of jokes like that. So yeah, it depends on the person. Off topic, but what are your honest thoughts on Guyver? I saw you use clips from it and you're so bad it's good, Emma, so I wanted to know if you consider it bad. Haven't seen it, just to know. It's been a while since I watched Guyver. So I haven't seen all of Guyver. I only saw, I think, the first OVA. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I only saw the first OVA. I wasn't overly impressed with it, but at the same time, like, it's not, I wouldn't necessarily say it's bad. Also, just as a point in the so bad it's good anime, the kind of point that I want to make is like, it's not necessarily that it is bad, right? Because the whole point of so bad is good is that it sort of loops around again and becomes good, right? It does something too over the top, or goes so hard on an idea that like might not necessarily be the best idea ever, but it makes it work somehow. That was more the idea rather than being like, oh, these anime are terrible, but I enjoy them though. But maybe that wasn't properly conveyed. A lot of Japan-centric references in it too. Yeah, yes, there's a lot of Japan-centric references in Excel Saga, man. Of course there's. Let's move on. Future Boy Conan. Future Boy Conan. Hayao Miyazaki. Way back in the day. Way back in the 70s. This show right here. This is a show that we on the podcast enjoy a lot. Sort of that whole like post-apocalyptic, mankind's gone extinct, sort of budding life on an island, lots of conflict, lots of abuse of nature, stuff like that. There's a lot to enjoy about this show. It still, despite being from the 70s, it still looks good. It is animated decently. It's got a lot going for it. It is a very enjoyable show. Yeah. I don't think I have too much more to say about that, to be honest. Like, it's just, would I put it on a... Yeah, actually, I think I would. I would put Future Boy Conan on a must-watch. It just... It isn't one of those shows that I myself rate the highest. Like, I definitely enjoy it, and it does deserve a lot of the praise it gets, in my opinion. There are stuff about it that sort of takes me out of it a little bit some of the time, but just in general, it's like, considering the time it came out, considering who made it, it's just, yeah, it is quite a special anime. It is something that I think should be experienced. It is a very important anime. Yeah, it should be enjoyable if it's not particularly good. I was under the impression people like Guyver on the wrong thing, and I do. Yeah, I mean, I definitely did get a few comments of people that were kind of pissed at me for using clips of Guyver, even though I didn't, specifically reference it, but using clips of Guyver in that video. So there are definitely people that do really enjoy it, and more power to them if that is the case. Again, I can't speak for all of Guyver because I haven't seen all of Guyver, so I don't know. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe it does actually become like really good. I don't know. More retro anime I would recommend are Mice Nikoku, Rose of Versailles, Super Dimensional Fortress Macross, Urusei Yatsura, and Trigun. Mice Nikoku is definitely one I am planning on watching. Same thing goes for Rose of Versailles. I actually technically should have watched that a long time ago, but I didn't. Didn't have time to, sadly. SDF Macross is on this list, and Urusei Yatsura, yeah. Trigun I am a bit cold on. Not the biggest fan of that one, sadly. So, but I do know there are people that like it. So for a lot of people, it was the other Cowboy Bebop. But yeah. Then we have Galaxy Express 3.9. Leiji Matsumoto shows. You either love them or you hate them. A lot of people look at the art style of a Leiji Matsumoto show and then they just immediately go, nope, not for me. Not for me at all. And yeah, it is definitely a show that people definitely something that, like, it's hard to get past. It is very different. It is very, very much its own thing. It's very easy to pick out a Leiji Matsumoto show. Maybe not so easy to get into it. But if you do, you're in for a surprise. Galaxy Express 3.9 is an episodic show, obviously, about a kid that sort of ventures out into space on the Galaxy Express in order to get a robot body. Because this is the future, and wealthy people have sort of abandoned their human bodies to live forever in these robot bodies. And it's just, there is apparently, at the end of the Galaxy Express, there is a place where you can get one for free. And so him and a woman named Metal helps him into space. And they sort of go on an adventure. And a lot of stuff happens. Tetsuro, the main boy, he loses his parents, for example. He loses his mother early on. There's just a lot of themes packed into every episode. And some of them work, some of them are very good. Some of them are not very good. Some of them are kind of dumb. I talked about this before. The one episode on the, like, metal, whatever planet it was, the fucking unstoppable force meets immovable object conundrum, which was sort of just kind of easily brushed over as, well, unstoppable force wins, which I thought was kind of stupid, but but you know, it does have kind of that, a lot of, like, dying, coming back. There's a point to that though, but early on it could be, like, a little weird, I guess. A little trippy. It is an experience, but it is an experience that I would highly recommend. It is long, over 100 episodes, so you know, you gotta brace yourself, and it definitely won't be every episode that you'll find is to be one of your favorites, but it's still pretty good. And yeah, let's see, got a couple more comments here. Did you watch Vision of Escaflowne? I did watch Vision of Escaflowne, and over on the Red Leaf Retrocasts podcast, we did an episode where we talked about Escaflowne, actually. So, yeah. Leiji Matsumoto shows always look very nice, but I haven't checked them out yet. Only the Interstellar movie, which I loved. I was planning to watch Battleship Yamato somewhat soon. Ah, yes. Yamato. That is also on this list, and yeah, definitely one should watch. I would love a Yamato 2199 style remake for Matsumoto anime. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I would not be against that. 2199 is, like I've said before, I really do rate 2199. It is just, I love 2199 just because, not even just because it's like a good show. I love 2199 because you can watch 2199 and then you can go back and watch the original Space Battleship Yamato and be like, this is not actually a waste of my time. Because while it tells the same story, it also diverges. So there's a lot of differences. There's a lot of different focus, even if the main story is the same. And I really appreciate that. It gives you an actual meaning to watch both of them. It's not just, hey, we updated the visuals. Where is Heidi? Heidi is not on this list because I haven't talked about it yet. I decided to primarily focus on shows that I have talked about. So, but maybe in the future. Ghost in the Shell. Ghost in the Shell. Mamoru Oshii movies. Ghost in the Shell. What can you say? it is an absolute classic, and it is, yeah, it's an absolute classic. Just the themes on it, what it means to be human. There's, I don't honestly don't know what to say other than just, you should watch this. You should have watched this if you haven't. Yeah, it is a very good movie, very enjoyable. I've said this before. I personally prefer the standalone complex TV series to the movies. Some people are gonna slaughter me for that. But again, it's just in general, I really do rate Ghost in the Shell as a series, and you know, the new Netflix Ghost in the Shell also being out now. I mean, I have thoughts. I've said some thoughts on it already. Still haven't seen the new part that came out, but I will get to that. Yeah, not the biggest fan of that, but at least the first part. Hopefully, I'm wrong. Hopefully, I'm just being dumb and looking back on the old one with rose-tinted glasses and I'm being like, this isn't the same. But focus on writing and character more than the action. Oh, absolutely. That is very much classic Oshi as well. There's a lot of like, it's an action movie kind of, but I wouldn't call it an action movie because, you know, the action scenes they're decent when they happen, but they're not in abundance. There's a lot of just sitting around philosophizing. And, you know, that Pat Labor is the same way as well. The Mamoru movie, Pat Labor movie 2, it's just a lot of sitting around talking, philosophizing between each other. It can be quite jarring if you don't like that, because, you know, it feels like there's a lot of time just not doing anything, but it is, man, it's so good. It is absolutely amazing. And then, I was going to say, the first time, but that is true, this is not the first shoujo we have on this. The first one was a shoujo as well, that was Aim for the Ace. But this is Glass no Kamen, or Glass Mask, and, yeah. Glass no Kamen is one of those shows that I know was rated quite highly, but I'd never actually heard about it before. Specifically, like, it's not the sort of stuff that you come around and people be like, hey, have you seen Glass no Kamen? That's like peak shoujo right there. But, yeah, it is definitely a very strong shoujo show, in my opinion. A lot of focus on acting, a lot of focus on on the acting scene, sort of growing up wanting to become an actress, and sort of the stuff you have to go through. A bit of, you know, a return to the 60s shoujo tropes of Oni coach, abusive mentor, because, you know, back in the day there was a thing that was a sort of sentiment that was okay. You can just sort of beat people and to be better. That's always a way to go, but still, in general, just the way this show portrays sort of the passion of our main character, her passion for acting, it's really nice. The stage plays are pretty well acted. I mean, they are actors, voice actors, but still. And sort of the whole portrayal of how everything is framed, it is quite well made. This is the 80s version, of course. There's a 2005 version as well. I haven't seen that one yet. But although I do see people rate that one quite highly, so maybe that is very good. It does, again, it doesn't end. It has sort of a chapter ending rather than an end ending, so that's something to keep in mind. But Glass no Kamen is still a very good show. And again, if you're into shoujo anime, then yeah, it is definitely one that I would suggest people watch. Still on Conflict Season 1 is great. Season 2 mixed bag. Yeah, a lot of people say that. Each season has its contained story. Yep. My experience, people know the anime, but not the manga it was made from, or she read the manga some 20 times before he made the film. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Correct. Zack is a police procedural that explored a wide range of different ideas. I could see someone who didn't like the movie liking Zack, but it probably depends on what you didn't like about the movie. Oh yeah, definitely. I would absolutely agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. But again, for me, it doesn't really matter. I recommend whether it be the movies or the standalone complex. I just say watch it all. I have watched it all, even Arise, which was alright. Not the best, but it was okay. It was decent. And again, the newest standalone complex. Still waiting on, or still haven't seen the second part of that, but I'll get to it at some point. Maybe I'll talk about it. Maybe I'll piss off some people again. We'll see. We'll see what I feel like. Golden Boy. Golden Boy. Golden Boy. Comedy. Dirty jokes. Dirty jokes galore. Following an absolute pervert who just wants to study. Always study. Always studying. We're always studying. This, again, it's literally just dirty jokes, the anime. I am going to put that on should consider watching. You could convince me to put it on highly recommended because it is very funny if this is your kind of humor. But it is very much in its own wheelhouse a pervy comedy. Like, that's what you get. That's what you come here for. That's what you stay for. And that's what you get. And it does it very well. Very well. Higher? You want it higher? Where would you put it then? Highly recommended? Must watch? Why haven't you seen it already? I mean, should it be highly recommended? Highly recommended? What are we saying? What's the viewer consensus here? Highly recommended? Must watch? Yeah, you know what? Sure, fine. You've convinced me. Highly recommended. Highly recommended. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I do like it. I do like this. I rate it quite highly. And it's just, trying to be considerate here. If you like perv comedy, yeah. If you don't like perv comedy, then first of all, why are you watching Golden Boy? Like, were you expecting something? Were you expecting something else? And yeah, I've talked about this before. Hajime no Ippo. Boxing anime. Definitely inspired by Ashita no Joe. It does a lot of the way it frames its fights is very similar to Ashita no Joe, which isn't a surprise. Ashita no Joe has inspired a lot of sports anime in terms of how to actually handle their story and how to build up stuff. And goddamn it, but the one benefit for me for Hajime no Ippo and why I would put Hajime no Ippo over Ashita no Joe is, well, because I technically watched Hajime no Ippo first, but just it straight up comes down to the fact that the animation is better, which is kind of lame to put it that way, but it sort of becomes the tipping point for me for these two shows because they are amazing. They are very good. They are both very amazing boxing anime, and yeah, I would highly recommend watching both of them. Like, both Ashita no Joe and Hajime no Ippo. Just must watch. Not even must watch. If you haven't seen them already, you've done something wrong. These are absolutely amazing shows. Golden Boy back in the day was considered as good as Gundam, Gits, or Bebop, but a lot less people seem to talk about it now. I have never seen it, so I can't really say. Just the fans regarded it on the same level. I've never seen people regard Golden Boy on the same level as Gundam, Ghost in the Shell, or Bebop, but I have seen a lot of people say that you should watch it, yes. And, I mean, I don't disagree, but it is for a very specific audience. But, like, if this is the sort of stuff you're looking for, you're going to be looking a long time for a better perv comedy than Golden Boy. It is in a league of its own. It takes itself very seriously in that regard. So, so what's the one? Don't know if I should go manga versus anime first. I mean, that to me that's very personal. I'm not much of a manga reader. I read some manga, but for the most part I watch anime. So I don't know, whatever you enjoy more, I guess. would be the way I would recommend going about it. But hey, I mean, I guess I was about to say spoiler. It actually isn't, because we talked about it in the last podcast episode we did. But this is Kachoji, or Legend of Black Heaven, and the next podcast episode we're going to be talking about this show, so we're going to get more into that. Therefore, I will spare you the details. But basically, it's about a middle-aged man who used to be in a band. Actually, he used to be the front man, and he used to play the guitar, very much into hard rock and heavy metal. But his life sucks now. He got married. He settled down. He had kids. His wife threw out his guitar, like his Flying V guitar. It's just, man, it's just, life sucks, man. But then one day, a fucking super hot alien girl shows up, and she is like, you are the one who will save space. Or, I guess, save Earth from this intergalactic war, and by in turn just save everyone. So he needs to pick up his Flying V guitar again and get back into it. Get back into absolutely rocking out. Living his dream again. So obviously this is... Why haven't you watched this or no? It's very silly. It's very dumb. It is extremely dumb. But it is my kind of dumb. I enjoy this sort of silliness. In a way, it's kind of similar to Macross, I guess, but like even dumber, not as good. I don't know how I'd best describe that, but yeah, it is not idols, at least. It's about more manly stuff. It's about hard rock, yeah. But yeah, no, it is not a show that I would consider watching over most of these. Lupin III. Lupin III, and just in general Lupin III. So, Lupin III, part 1, every part, fucking specials, Castle of Cagliostro, yes, even that one. Now, I would be lying if I said that I don't love the absolute shit out of Lupin. It is my kind of show. Gentlemen Thieves, fun, silliness, very pervy and sort of creepy early on, definitely, but sort of settles down eventually. Its theme sort of being a bit of a controversy, because like they wanted it to be more kids friendly, so it became more kids friendly, and then which has sort of later led to like the Takeshi Koike trilogy that I made a movie. Yes, I made a movie, made a video about, which is more mature again. But regardless, for me, even if it is silly and child friendly or more mature, like, it's still really good. And don't get me wrong, Lupin can be terrible. Green versus Red, I don't enjoy. Not at all. I think it's very bad. And like that one mid-episode in part 5, Jesus Christ, that is probably one of the worst episodes of anime I've ever seen. But holy shit, when it's good, it's enjoyable. And it's that nice kind of enjoyable. You know what you're getting yourself into. You are not surprised by Lupin. Like, watching main series Lupin, it's not like you're going to go in and be like, wow, I did not see that coming. But still, the way stuff works out, the way the characters interact with each other, the silliness, the over-the-top nature, the stupid plans, the cops and robbers, everything. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. And that's why I'll put it on must-watch. I wouldn't go so far as to put it on the highest tier, although part of me wants to, because I do really love this one. But it is still kind of one note and not for everyone. I love Cagliostro, the first one. Season 5 I loved. Hajime was alright. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Fujikomi series. I do love that darker theme, and getting into the trilogy as well was the Takeshi Koike trilogy. Just that was sort of my stuff that I enjoy the most. But in general, I am just, it takes a lot for me to dislike Lupin in general. I love Lupin, but I can't say I recommend all of it. Especially in part 2, there's a lot of mid. Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Especially episode 60 through 140, I would say like maybe 1/3 or 4 episodes of that stretch is mid or worse. Yeah, again, like I said, it varies. It absolutely varies. But I don't know. For me, I would still rate it very highly. I do like Lupin a lot. I think it is quite good. And yeah, I'm not the most critical when it comes to Lupin. I'm not sitting here overly analyzing this show. It's safe fun. Safe fun. I remember getting a reference in the original Samurai Jack. Oh, that's nice. I didn't watch too much Samurai Jack. I only watched a couple episodes. Yeah. All right. Master Keaton. Master goddamn Keaton. Naoki Urasawa. As a matter of fact, it will also be the next one we talk about. Will be a work of his. Since we're talking about the guy who made Monster, or wrote Monster. And 20th Century Boys. Very good writer. Very good writer. And Master Keaton is one of those shows based on a work of his that doesn't get the same amount of love as some of these other ones do. But it was kind of a shock, to be honest. Like, because while I obviously knew of Urasawa, and that was what drew me to this in the first place, the way everything sort of sounds, you know, insurance agent, served in the military, former SAS, served in the Falkland Wars, and now he's an archaeology major. He's also a lecturer. It sounds so all over the place. It sounds so all over the place. Like, and it sounds all over the place because it is all over the place. The show does everything. I would never feel comfortable saying Monster is one thing. Master Keaton is one thing. Like, because you go from one episode and then it's like mystery, and then suddenly it's action, and then it's just slice of life, and then it's this, and then it's that, and then they're constantly changing stuff. But the thing that appeals to me with this is the fact that they aren't changing genres to basically be like, oh, we did everything. They're changing genre because the genre is more based on what the story needs, right? They're telling a story, and then depending on what that story needs, that's the genre that is the main sort of focus for that episode. And I like that. I really like that. I really like that way of going about it when you're making an episodic show, because obviously making an episodic show that's all action, right? You go for the same thing every episode, all mystery every episode, right? But there's just so many things you can do here, and it doesn't sort of bother too much with being like trying to be considered one thing. It uses whatever plot, whatever like genres and whatever themes that are necessary to further the story that they're telling. That doesn't mean that every episode is amazing, but there are quite a few amazing episodes, and I do really enjoy it. So yeah, same as with Lupin, I would consider Master Keaton a must-watch anime. Legend, I love it even more than Monster, which surprised me. Yeah, the OVA was good too. Yes, it was. The OVA was also very good. Interesting how the OVA focused on Eastern Bloc Germany. Yes, there's a lot of that. There's just, I don't know, like there's a lot of stuff about Master Keaton that surprised me, and that is good. That is honestly just what you want a lot of times in anime. When you've seen a lot of stuff, being surprised is hard. But I was surprised many times by this show. All right, and then of course Monster. I mean, classic. A lot of people obviously love Johan. A lot of people claim he's one of the best villains in anime. He is not very present, but the idea of him is very scary. The idea of Johan is very scary, and that is sort of what you want in this sort of psychological thriller. wouldn't necessarily call it horror, but that's sort of what you want. You want the idea of him to be very frightening. And as well as just the general moral questions, like, you know, the whole introduction to it, Dr. Tenma, who is given a choice, not even given a choice. He is told, you know, he has to either operate on this kid that's been shot in the head, or this politician who is seemingly not that life-threatening. So he does what any sane human being would do, and he would go and save the kid that is clearly in mortal danger and needs him the most. And that turns out to not only have cost us his career, but turns out to have been one of the worst mistakes he's ever made in his professional career. And that's just what makes monsters so interesting. There's... all actions have ramifications. Even seemingly good ones. And Dr. Tenma saved the man who would go on to be one of the worst monsters he has ever seen. And that is a very scary proposition. Thinking that something you did out of good intention is backfiring on you hard. So die like that. Monster is really good. Must watch. Definitely must watch. Nadia, Secret of Blue Water. Nadia, Secret of Blue Water. So, Nadia, Secret of Blue Water is similar to... hold on, why am I... yeah, Nadia, Secret of Blue Water is similar to Future Boy Conan. Sort of based on the same thing. Based on the same idea. Technically was... I need to make sure I'm not saying this right, actually, because... hold on. Suddenly I got uncertain. Suddenly I became uncertain, so I gotta make sure that I am... because it was in fact Hideaki Anno that did this. But yeah, it is sort of based on the same thing. I'm pretty sure this was also meant to be Miyazaki, if I'm not mistaken, but who made this, but it never happened. And eventually Anno took charge of it. And I'll be hanged for this, but it's Ava done right. Most watch, in my opinion. Unfortunately, his filler episodes are terrible. Yeah. But Ava done right, I don't know about that one. I wouldn't go that far. Definitely wouldn't go that far. It is very good, though. I enjoy it as much as my fellow podcast host does not. That's very disappointed in them. But it is quite an experience. A little bit all over the place. Nadia as a character can be a bit much for some people. She is very ignorant, very set in her own ways, very self-assured in a bad way. Not the most likable person in the world, to be honest. And sort of having her be part of part of a romance, then kind of, or at least the other main character's sort of main focus as a love interest kind of becomes a little bit annoying, because you're like, dude, what the fuck do you even see in this bitch? It's Nadia was the first hardcore vegan. Oh yeah. No, she is quite something. But it is very good. It is a very good show. It's a very good show. I am still stuck, though, whether or not I would put it between highly recommended or should consider watching. Before I did the podcast, I definitely would have just put it straight up in highly recommended, because, again, I do love this show. After having talked about it with my podcast co-host, though, I am starting to reconsider. Man, I'm still going to put in highly recommended. You know, I'm going to put it there just to spite them. You guys don't know what you're talking about. Not good, please. Yeah. Evangelion. Neon Genesis Evangelion. Love Neon Genesis Evangelion. Love End of Evangelion. I also watched the rebuilds. The rebuilds are fine. Good, even. Up to a point. At least up to 2.0. 3.0 and 4.0, however. I'm not a fan. I am not a fan of those. But as far as the original Eva is considered, it is a classic. Classic for good reason. And I still do consider End of Eva to be one of my favorite anime movies of all time. And that takes a bit of doing, because I've watched a decent bit of anime at this point. So yeah, I think I'll definitely put it here on why you haven't watched this yet. It's a classic. Still one of the most popular anime in Japan. Still pumps up merch like it's nobody's business. They still milk that dry for every yen it is worth. And goddamn it, will they probably keep doing that. And even though Hideaki probably won't make more Eva, I guess. I don't think it's the end. I'm pretty sure there has been more confirmed as well, so I'm not too excited about that. But the 90s stuff, 100%. Must watch. I still get creeped out by it. Eva made a huge impact on other anime, so in this regard, it's a must watch. Yeah. Yep. It definitely did. It has had a lot of impact. A lot of shows here on the top has had a lot of impact, to be honest. I guess the big exception being Hajime no Ippo, who was not necessarily not had an impact on sports anime, but and I guess Cowboy Bebop to extent there. You don't find too many Cowboy Bebops anymore. It was technically still a bit of a flop, but definitely brought a lot of anime fans in. NieA under 7. NieA under 7. NieA under 7 is strange. Very strange. It's like Lane. It's like Serial Experiments Lane, but not. Way more comedy, way more silly, way more dumb. Very much racist, to a point. It is for plot reasons as well, but it is kind of weird sometimes. You can be a little bit weirded out by the Indian dude, for example. But you know, interesting choice of aliens, I guess. You know, they are aliens, I guess. It is an experience, although not necessarily the best experience, in my opinion. I would probably say that one goes down there on the watch if you've seen all the other ones. It's not a terrible anime by any means. It is fun. I enjoy watching it. It's got a nice atmosphere. It's got some silliness to it. Decent silliness, but it is not. It is not one that I would say like people should watch that hard. But it is fun. Tried to get into this one, but couldn't. Lane and Technolight spoiled me on the guys. Yeah. There is a. Those are definitely two of his better works. NieA under 7 is. I wouldn't say it's too silly for its own good, but I guess it sort of it hampers its expectations because you have an expectation of what you're gonna get, and then it sort of plays with that expectations, but doesn't give you anything satisfactory with it, and instead just sort of goes around being like, hey, I'm poor. Hey, I can barely make a living. Hey, there's a bunch of foreigners here. Hey, crashed spaceship. Yeah, NieA is a deadbeat. Won't get a job. Eats all my food. You know? It's like, okay, cool. Alright. Ningyohime. Anderson Doam, Ningyohime. This is the Little Mermaid. This is the Little Mermaid, but it's not by Disney. Based on the original fairy tale. Yeah. It's a lot, I say a lot. It's not a lot darker, but it is darker in theme. No happy endings, none of that stupid shit. This is fairy tales as fairy tales were supposed to be. Warnings. It is definitely an interesting watch, especially having grown up with Disney's version of Little Mermaid. So seeing this version is kind of a bit of a whiplash, and it is something that I would recommend people to watch. Actually, I would put this on should consider watching. It's not the most like the highest recommended I've ever done. Like, It is still my, I want to say My Little Mermaid. That's not the name. The Little Mermaid. But yeah, it's not the. It is what you know. It's still a Little Mermaid. Nothing has changed. Too many fan service shows on this list. Papillon Rose. This is a joke. This show is a joke. It exists because it's a joke. It exists because people wanted it. It exists because people were making parodies of Sailor Moon. Is it good? Yeah, kind of. Especially the OVA. The TV series is tamer. It's so silly, so raunchy, so out there that it's kind of hard to believe that this is a thing. Not because it's the most sexual anime ever made, not at all, but just it's so strange with his comedy, and just it takes you in the weird scenes, like the dude was just randomly getting fucking licked by a cat, stuff like that. It's just, yeah. It gets you. It gets to you. It got to me. It definitely belongs down here, though, because it isn't good. This is not a traditional good anime. This is one you watch for the fun of it. This is one of those things you put on while you are drinking hard, and you just want to have some fun. Do you have the name somewhere? I do have the name somewhere. You know, hold on. I think I can probably do that. I can just post a list of anime, and I will post that in the description of the live stream. Should be able to do that. Pretty sure. Right? I can edit this. Can I not? I can edit. So let me just list of anime. There we go. Now that should be there. Probably should have done that before. Probably should have done that before, but that is fine. Where were we? Yeah. Don't watch this unless you have nothing else to watch. Planet S. You know, it's been said a lot of times, but watching a show about garbage men in space does not sound like the most interesting thing in the world. Watching garbage men in space does not sound like the most interesting thing in the world, but it kind of is. Mostly because of the implication, right? We're talking about space debris here. We're talking about the impact that could have on Earth. We're talking about, in this case, it's sort of mostly seen through the lens of the tourism, the like intergalactic tourism industry. But even in general, it does cover a lot more than that. It's got a lot of unnecessary points about it as well. Some sort of shoehorning political issues, some terrorism, stuff like that. But all in all, this is the best show about garbage men in space I've ever seen. It's also the only show about garbage men in space I've ever seen. So, it's not got stiff competition, but it is very good. It's an enjoyable experience. It's not very long, 26 episodes, I'm pretty sure. Let me double check that. Planet S from 2003, 2004, 26 episodes. I am correct. One of your top anime? Nice. Yes, that one is in fact Ippo. I will now respect your list. Damn. I'm not looking for people's respect. If I wanted respect, I wouldn't be making videos. Nah. Planet S, yeah. It is very good. It is very good. I think I would probably put it in a highly recommended rather than must watch, personally. But it is very good. It is extremely good. It is extremely good, actually. No, I'm going to put it on a must watch. I think it is worth. No. Highly recommended. Highly recommended. Highly recommended. It is. not. It still has issues. I'm saying that as if these doesn't, but like, I probably wouldn't put it higher than highly recommended. And then up next, we have once again another 80s show, another Leiji Matsumoto show actually, and this is Queen Millennia. Queen Millennia was originally supposed to be the spiritual successor, which I got some shit for saying because it's not a sequel. I know it's not a sequel. It's a spiritual successor because it was supposed to take over on TV in Japan right after Galaxy Express 3.9 ended. And that is essentially its role. Sadly, it lost a lot of interest. People weren't as into it as they were Galaxy Express. Galaxy Express was a lot more popular. And this one ended up getting cancelled at around 47-ish episodes, I think. 43, something like that. Queen Millennia. The TV series, not the movie. There is a movie as well. 42 episodes, yeah. Okay. And sadly, because of its premature ending, the story does suffer. But I enjoy Queen Millennia quite a lot. And the biggest reason is because it's sort of where Galaxy Express is about sort of that self-discovery sort of stuff and going through space, being a big fan of space. Queen Millennia is more centered on Earth. It doesn't really go out from Earth too much. We still have aliens, we still have space coming into play, but it is more sort of, we're more talking like impending doom. And type of situation. And trying to save humanity and a lot of that. That leads to some political drama, that leads to, a lot of stuff. It leads to political drama. It leads to like sort of people trying to figure out what sides they're on, right? Because we have Queen Millennia, a girl who gets sent to a Lametalian who gets sent to Earth to sort of live on Earth so that they can prepare for when Lametal, the planet, eventually will collide in, and they can sort of save the smartest people and use them as slaves because why not? They need that, and yeah. But sort of having lived on Earth, Queen Millennia changes her mind and kind of wants to try to save people, as many people as possible. So, but still sort of wants to remain loyal that. So you have a lot of that back and forth. Who are you loyal to? Type of stuff. You have some supernatural elements as well in terms of abilities and whatnot. That's some stuff that's kind of ass-pulled, not untypical Leiji Matsumoto stories, but it happens. The biggest problem again with this is the fact that it doesn't end. It's not episodic. It's actually an overarching story, so that's nice. That makes it very interesting compared to Galaxy Express. But being that it doesn't finish, it does suffer a little bit. But I would still put it on highly recommended. I would still put it here on the same level as Galaxy Express. In a lot of ways, I actually like Queen Millennia more than I like Galaxy Express. But it does have its flaws. And again, the no ending is a big part of that. Listen, pretty okay. I just watched Angel Saga a few months ago, and man, what was I waiting for? Same for Gunbuster. People should watch that before seeing Evangelion. Yeah, Gunbuster's definitely good. Hold on while I just get myself something to drink. Voice is getting a little dry. Should probably also work on wrapping this up soon because it's been 2 hours now. I wasn't planning on this taking that long. But alright, here we go. We now have Utena. Revolutionary Girl Utena. And Revolutionary Girl Utena is definitely quite the show. Like, we're talking, obviously, if you've been into anime for a while, you'll have heard the name Kunihiko Ikuhara. He makes Also very out there anime at times. His stuff can be very weird, but it is interesting. It's visually interesting. Its visual storytelling is very key. Even though he was also somebody who very early on realized the impact of the YouTube thumbnail with big red arrows and circling stuff in to point your attention towards stuff. Did that before YouTube, so you know. Inventor. No, but yeah, it is just it is, if you like weird stories, if you like sort of coming of age stories about women finding themselves kind of type deal, this is very, very good. Very out there, but still very good. I would definitely put that as a must watch. I do think it is highly worth watching and something people should look into. Writing Bean. Writing Bean is an OVA. There's also a there's also a sequel to Writing Bean. It's not a sequel. I guess it's a different one. It's a spin-off. Sorry, spin-off Gunsmith Cats, which people tend to prefer. Personally, though, I prefer Writing Bean. It's sillier and late 80s OVA, cars, action, fun stuff. It's got that silliness to it. It's got that sort of it's got the character interaction that I liked. A lot of like bickering between the main characters and stuff like that just makes for a good time. And a lot of just silly situations, a lot of dumb shit like throwing nades, getting them back at you, like stuff like that. It's very much 80s, but it's so good. Utena was awesome. Quite the art. Ikuhara worked also on some episodes of Sailor Moon. Yes, he did. The biggest problem though with Writing Bean for me is the fact that it's one episode. Yeah. One episode, 46 minutes. Not that much to it, but it is fun. I would definitely consider watching it. Not the sort of stuff that you should prioritize, but if you have nothing else to watch, you should definitely go and consider watching that one. It is quite good. And then, of course, here we have SDF Macross. The original Macross, but you can generally think about the Macross series for this one as well. Like, Macross is interesting. It's sort of, especially SDF Macross, kind of feels a bit like, there's sort of 2 points to SDF Macross for me. You have sort of the beginning part where it doesn't quite feel like it knows exactly what it wants to be. And then you have the rest of it where they basically just decided to lean hard into culture and was like, yep, idols, anime culture, space, sci-fi, just absolutely, we're going ham on this shit now. This is something else. This is culture, and we're about to experience some goddamn culture. Definitely an interesting show. Definitely a must-watch, maybe. Yeah, definitely a must-watch. It is very good. It is very good. Gotta watch the movie as well. Do you remember love? Do you remember love? Do you remember love? I can't speak. I have problems speaking. This is why I'm glad that I normally record and don't stream. Because goddamn it, I can at least try to fucking cut out the goddamn bullshit. And also, if I swear too much, and that makes you uncomfortable, I'm sorry. That's just what I normally talk like. Very Star Trek-like at parts, yes. And yeah, Macross. Good. Space Battleship Yamato. Sometimes it's hard to... I mean, again, Leiji Matsumoto. Sometimes it's hard to just get over me that this thing was made in the 70s. Because, goddamn it, it looks good. It looks very good. It's got an interesting story. A little bit of that 70s issues for me with some stories. And, you know, the Matsumoto issue as well. I've talked about this before. He does like ass-pulling some stuff. And there are things in the ending here which is kind of sort of like pull that I think are better explained in 2199. But in general, apart from that, it is just a very good story, very, very enjoyable, a very nice journey. Lots of interesting elements coming up along the journey as well. Lots of interesting conflict. Again, you can watch this and you can watch 2199 and you can get completely different experiences of the same story. I absolutely love it. I would also put that as a must watch. It's kind of hard to get to come around this one. It is one of those 70 shows that just needs to be watched. I like Cobra the character better than Cobra the show. I can feel that. I can feel that. I do enjoy Cobra a lot, though. I do enjoy Cobra a lot. I enjoy Cobra very much. Cobra is, again, manly man, 80s action hero type guy. Space pirate, cooler than cool, always smoking a cigar. Psycho gun embedded in his arm that is controlled by his mind. He is so out there. And if you watch the movie as well, Jesus Christ, that's up. This is Osamu Dezaki stuff, and God, the movie is an absolute trip. Holy shit. But Cobra in general it's action manly man 80s stuff. It's so fun. Manly man character just going around saving beautiful women. It's, that type of show. And I love it. I would definitely consider it a must-watch. Definitely consider it a must-watch. It's so good. It is so good, especially if you're into that just 80s action. Those 80s action movies, it is so, so good. And then, yet again, we have even more Leiji Matsumoto stuff. I mean, again, it's hard to come around like Leiji Matsumoto when you're talking about retro stuff, especially 70s, 80s. A lot of Leiji Matsumoto stuff. He's made a lot. He's had a hand in a lot. And a lot of it is still remembered. Space Pirate Captain Harlock is a lot of the same. And similar to Cobra, Harlock is also a bit of a manly man character. A bit of a I can do anything and I will save the day no matter what you do type of person. And that's kind of cool. He's not as... Personality-wise, he's definitely very different to Cobra. But he still embodies a lot of that same just confidence and we can do stuff. And he's just calmly sitting back, drinking some wine. With his alien assistant, the crew, he is quite the character. However, out of these ones, I would say that is probably one that you should consider watching rather than should be watched. I know some people are probably going to be a little bit upset about that because people do like Harlock. It is good, definitely good, but again, it comes down to that same thing with Leiji Matsumoto all the time. There's a lot of stuff that you sort of just have to sit down and be like, okay, why is this a thing? Why is this a thing? Why are they they exploding? Why are they burning? Why are they doing this? Which is basically just answered with a whole bunch of, don't worry about it. Don't question it. It's just how it's supposed to be. This is the story. And that's fine to a certain extent, but it becomes a bit much in Captain Harlock, at least for my liking. So, yeah. Steam Boy. Steam Boy. Steam Boy is a movie from 2004. Katsuhiro Otomo. And we all know what he has worked on. That's right. Same guy who worked on Akira. It is just... It's Steam Boy. It's steampunk. It's interesting. It's an interesting movie. It is a decent watch. And I'm not even going to move it. I'm just going to say it here. It's set in England, and it is around like the World Science Fair stuff, and a bunch of stuff happens. So this steam core that has been developed that must not fall into evil hands and yada yada. A lot of that stuff. It's not the greatest movie ever made, in my opinion, but it is still very enjoyable. It's an enjoyable watch. I like it a lot, and I would recommend people watching it. I don't think it's a must-watch, though. Definitely not. If you're going to watch something by Katsuhiro Otomo, you should definitely watch Akira before you watch Steam Boy. That is my opinion. That is definitely my opinion. And then we have Takarajima, or Treasure Island. And yes, that's right, Treasure Island. It is based on Treasure Island. And this is one of those 70s shows that we sort of stumbled upon on the talking on the podcast, that it belongs to this like weird group of shows that like it's based on other fiction that isn't Japanese based, and it's just like it's very interesting to watch sort of like an anime take on something that isn't based in Japanese culture, which is nice. Takarajima is very fun, like pirate adventures type stuff. You know what you're getting. Sticks to formula quite nicely. But it is a very good time. It is a very good time. And yeah, it is a show that I would highly recommend as well. I don't think it's a must-watch. Definitely not a must-watch in my opinion. It's not that great, but it is very good. And it's an enjoyable show that I enjoyed a lot. And I would say that it is something that you should definitely prioritize if you have, again, seen most of these shows above it. Then it is one of those things which, like, I would still have it high on your list if you're looking for something to watch. At only 26 episodes as well, it's not the longest. But again, 70 show. It is 70 show, sort of limited animation. That is something that takes a little bit of getting used to if you're not used to 70s anime. It's not the sort of stuff you get a whole lot of all the time. So yeah, worth keeping in mind. Technolice. We've already talked about the NieA Under 7. Mentioned Lane as well. Lane would have been on this list, but I haven't talked about that one yet. So, yeah. Sort of in the same vein as... It is definitely a lot better than NieA Under 7. A lot of references to Purgatory and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff going on in Technolice. A lot of quite graphic stuff as well. A lot of just sort of, cybernetics type stuff. It's so out there, wacky, but not too out there. It's very dark. It's a very dark kind of series. And it is one that I rate quite highly. I do enjoy it. I do enjoy this a lot. The style of Takarajima is quite dark for a kid's story, but I liked it. Yes, I agree. But yeah, Technolice, I would put that on highly recommended. It's a good show. It is a very good show, but it is not so... Like, just to sort of, I could say it, even if it isn't there. In the way that I would sort of rate those shows, like the NieA Under 7, the Technolice, and the Serial Experiments Lane, I would definitely put Serial Experiments Lane at the top, then Technolice, and then NieA Under 7. But there's a bigger gap between NieA Under 7 and Technolice than there is between Serial Experiments Lane and Technolice, in my opinion. But yeah, there's that. And then, of course, Totoro. My Neighbor Totoro. So, mentioned briefly when in my recent video that I uploaded on a very bad day on a Monday, but there was a reason for that, but whatever. We mentioned this briefly as well, because when I was talking about Only Yesterday, it's true that parts of Only Yesterday's story, the original manga, was what inspired, or was what Hayao Miyazaki kept in mind when he made Totoro. A absolute classic Ghibli movie, classic children's movie. One of my favorite Ghibli movies of all time. Actually, I would probably say it is my favorite Ghibli movie of all time. I'm not the biggest Ghibli fan out there, definitely not. And there's a lot of stuff that I don't think is as good as people claim it to be. I know, hot take, but Totoro is definitely up there. Totoro is one of those things that I think it's worth the praise. It definitely deserves it. I'm not sure if I would put it on Why Haven't You Watched This Already Yet. I probably rather put it on Must Watch. But it is a Ghibli movie, and that is kind of hard to say that you shouldn't watch Ghibli movies. I'm going to put it at the top. Why not? This is my list. This is my goddamn list. All right. We're nearing the end, and my voice is dying. So, this is Ushiro no Shomendare, or what's the English title? Hold on, I'm gonna mess that up. Who's Left Behind? I think it is Ushiro no Shomendare, right? Yep, it's a movie from '90s, and doesn't really. Yeah, Who's Left Behind? Yeah, Ushiro no Shomendare, and it's a similar to Barefoot Gen. This is also A-bomb literature. It's about when the nuclear bombs were dropped on Japan. This is. I am not. No, I'm not mistaking this from the other one. Sorry, there was another one that I also talked about that I don't think is on this, but that's. Yeah, that's not this one. Sorry. So Ushiro no Shomendare is also a A-bomb literature, and it's about when the nukes were dropped on Japan. But the sort of the difference here is that it's not as close as Barefoot Gen, and you're not in it, because this story sort of the main character in this story sort of got moved, or one of the ones who were moved out of the big cities and out to the countryside, because people who at the time when there was a threat of this happening, a lot of the kids were moved away from their family and moved to distant relatives or friends of family to sort of get away from the worst of it in case something should happen. And yeah, so that's sort of where this takes place from. But it is still quite heartbreaking in the sense that it is still about losing your family and loved ones. It is still about that sort of like uncertainty. You're away from the war, but you know the war is happening. And just kind of sitting there wondering, like, how are the people I know? How are they doing? What is happening? Where are everyone? And yeah, very it's based on the Japanese, like the whole theme of this is sort of taken around the idea of like a classic sort of Japanese children's game actually that they play, where it's like, you know, you're sitting down covering your eyes and people are walking around you and sort of singing and tapping you on the shoulder and you need to guess who's behind you. It's like stuff like that. And that's sort of the idea of the title as well, and what the whole point of that, who was left behind, who was ultimately the one who will be left behind. But yeah, definitely, it is an interesting watch, but I would put it and should consider watching. Barefoot Gen, I think, is better. It's more raw. You get a more first-hand look at everything. This is more passive. This is more for those that can't really stomach the graphic nature of Barefoot Gen, because this is a more distant take, but you're still interested in like that experience, sort of living during the war, being, you know, there when the nuke was dropped on Japan. Glad I made it before the stream. Thank you for the awesome ranking stream. I hope everyone is having a great day. Thank you. I hope people have been having fun. It's been kind of scuffed. Sorry about that, but this was also a bit last minute, which is also my own fault. But hey, it happens. More of a fan of Kiki, but Totoro is a real gem. For me, it's kind of the opposite. I'm more of a fan of Totoro. Kiki is one of those things where it's like, I've been told so many times that I was going to love it, and then I didn't. So it's a bit disappointing, but I guess that's one of those things where it's like you hype something up too much, and it's just, you're expecting the world, and then you see it, and it's like, that's it? That's all you can give me? But yeah, alright. We're fast approaching the end here. So yeah, obviously this is Gundam, but specifically War in the Pocket. War in the Pocket is one of those. So I'm not the biggest fan of Gundam myself. I haven't watched too much Gundam. I watched a little bit, but War in the Pocket for me is part of, and you can sort of see that with why, because I have like multiple or two A-bomb literature movies on here. So you can sort of see a theme with what I like when it comes to my sort of war-centric shows. And I like to see how war, rather than just seeing people being at war or participating in war, I like to see how war affects people. And that is what War in the Pocket is. War in the Pocket is a lot more about the colonies and about how these wars are actually affecting them as well. Because it is more grounded. It's not just like military going to fight. We need to defeat the enemy. We need to take over that. There's the sole focus here, not the sole focus, but the big focus here is how sort of as the war sort of comes crashing into these seemingly peaceful colonies, just taking everybody with them, and how that affects them and their way of living. And that's the sort of stuff I like. And yeah, don't think I'd consider this a must-watch. I'd probably also put this on highly recommended, just because, again, I'm not the biggest fan of Gundam, and yes, again, absolutely, hang me for that. I know, no, absolutely, it's terrible. How can you not be a big fan of Gundam? It's Gundam. But that's just how it is. But I do enjoy War in the Pocket, and I do enjoy some Gundam as well. It's not like I hate Gundam, but just in general. Not give me Macross plus vibes. Yeah, I can see that. This is Whistle. So Whistle is a football anime, or soccer anime, if you will. This is one we talked about on the podcast. This was a show I've never actually heard about before. And this, where I would say stuff like Hajime no Ippo, Ashita no Joe, even Kuroko no Basket, Slam Dunk, which we recently did, stuff like that, how those are exceptional. That was my chair. How those are exceptional sports anime. Whistle is more of a standard sports anime. It's by the rules, underdog story, sort of. I like football. I've been playing it for a long time, but I'm not very good at it. Not a part of the team, transfer school, want to get into the team, want to play. We're sort of coming up, learning basics, stuff like that. It's a very bog standard sports anime in that regard. But it is fun. But I would definitely put it there. It is not the sort of stuff you should prioritize, and there are hundreds of sports anime that I would watch before this one. But it is one that people don't talk about very much. And it is worth the watch. It's not bad. It just isn't great. I thought it was Tsubaki. I can see why. It cuts out. Like, if you see the big picture, it would be very obvious that this isn't Captain Tsubaki. But yeah, just seeing it like this, I guess I can see why you would assume it is. I would have put Captain Tsubasa on here as well, but again, like I said, I primarily focused on shows that I've actually talked about. Well, primarily, I've only focused on shows that I've actually talked about on the channel, just to sort of keep that trend going. It would make more sense for me to do this ranking with shows that I've actually talked about, rather than just bringing a whole bunch of new stuff in that I've never talked about before. And besides, I already had 50 anime here, and I did not expect this to go for 2.5 goddamn hours. Damn. Tsubasa. Captain Tsubasa. Yes. Yes, thank you. Alright, and then last but not least, I'm never going to get into Gundam. It just never ends. I mean, depends on what you want to watch of Gundam. There's a lot of stuff from Gundam you don't have to watch. But I'm gonna leave somebody who's more experienced in Gundam to take the explanation on that. I cannot be trusted. This is not my Gundam is not my area of expertise. I should not be your number one source for Gundam related info. I'm a fanatic of You're Under Arrest. Yes, You're Under Arrest. The last one on this list. I mean, same. To this day, I still only watch the OVA, which is a bit sad. I was planning on watching the show. I just never had time for it. And, me sort of having been on a bird out with anime now for quite a while meant I just never did. But it's something I'm definitely going to do once I get more back into anime and watching it again. I enjoy You're Under Arrest quite a lot. The OVA is so good. The OVA is so good. It looks amazing. There are some stunning scenes. Like, the scene of, like, the main characters in this just sort of taking a the cat was giving birth, I think, and sort of trying to drive it through to a vet in a storm, like over the bridge while it's storming, it's raining hard, and you have the goddamn like traffic menace that's out there driving around, just giving people a hard time. You just have that scene where they're on the bridge and the storm is setting and the water is just spilling off the windshield of the car. Just absolutely, it looks so gorgeous, so good, so good. You have the cool scene as well with just a guy showing up, being an absolute menace, and the fucking motorcycle guy coming up from the side as well, just getting in on it. Like, it's such a collection of nice scenes, and it's got so many lovable characters. It's such a good time. It's such a good time. Must watch. Must watch. For me, it is a must watch. I was expecting sort of, traffic police. How do you make traffic police interesting? Just watch You're Under Arrest and you'll find out. Because goddamn it, they did it. They took a relatively boring job and made it interesting. It's not Karakano. It is not. It is not. It's alright. Well, there you have it, I guess. That only took 2.5 hours, which it shouldn't have, but should start as early if anyone would have lasted this long. But this is sort of just putting it together like this. This is what I've come up with, and what I think you should watch. So sort of the main takeaways, like the shows that you should watch that are you should have already watched if you haven't already, would be Akage no En, Ashita no Joe, even though you can't see his head, Cowboy Bebop, Ghost in the Shell, Hajime no Ippo, Neon Genesis Evangelion, and My Neighbor Totoro. For must-watches, I would say Akira, Angel's Egg, Future Boy Conan, Lupin III, Master Keaton, Monster, Revolutionary Girl Utena, Macross, Space Battleship Yamato, Cobra, and You're Under Arrest. The highly recommended shows would be Barefoot Gen, I'm getting tired, Beck, Berserk, FLCL, Galaxy Express 39, Glass no Kamen, Golden Boy, Nadia, The Secret of Blue Water, Planet S, Queen Millennia, Steam Boy, Takarajima, Technolice, and War in the Pocket, Mobile Suit Gundam War in the Pocket. Should consider watching is Aim for the Ace, Belladonna of Sadness, Devilman, Digimon Adventure, XL Saga, Anderson Doa, Ningyohime, Riding Bean, Space Pirate Captain Harlock, and Ushiro no Shomen Dare. That sounded so bad. My pronunciation is all over the place. And yeah. And if you've seen all of those, then you can consider checking these out at the end. And that is Birdy the Mighty. It is Bubblegum Crisis, Cat's Eye, Cipher the Video, Crusher Joe, Legend of Black Heaven, Rokachu Oji, NieA Under 7, Papillon Rose, and Whistle. So yeah. That, I guess, is it. Anybody have any final comments on my list? Anybody want to tell me how trash this is? 150 minutes, just 3 minutes per anime. You did it quick. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I did. I definitely did. I honestly just should have had this be slightly earlier for my own sake. I just I was just underprepared for how much time I was gonna actually spend on this. So, but yeah, it was fun. It was definitely fun. I'm glad some people decided to show up. That made me very happy. In my mind, I was going to sit here and do this all by myself, just talking to myself, because this was not something that I'd planned to do. It is. It was an idea I had as I was sort of given an assignment of being like, so you need to hold an event for people, and I was just like, shit, what do I do? What do I do? I guess it's going to have to be a stream of some sort. A stream related to anime. What do I do? I can't just sit down and watch anime with people. That would get taken down. I also wouldn't be allowed to do that, so. But yeah. I hope you guys had a good time. I'm glad. I'm glad. I am glad. But yeah, again, like I said, all these have been recommended before. This is just to sort of put it into context a little bit about what I think about where I would actually rank these sort of shows in terms, like, up against each other. What would be more important to watch if you were thinking about watching any of the anime that I have recommended on this channel, but you were like, what do I start with? And, you know, this is at least my recommendation for where to start. And then, other than that, you just look at them, read about them, make up your own mind about what you think sounds the most interesting, and then go from there. This was a good list. Thanks for the stream. I'm glad you liked it. This was awesome. Thank you for your time. Hearing your opinions on these all together was such an amazing time. I'm glad you guys seem to enjoy it. I'm glad. It was definitely fun doing this, even though my voice is going to suffer. I'm probably gonna have a sore throat tomorrow. It's not. I don't stream very often, and I've definitely been feeling my throat today. So, yeah, but streaming is definitely something that I want to do more once I have more time, which I should have in June, starting in June. So, we'll see. Maybe that means more. That should hopefully also mean more videos. But I can't make any promises until I can actually prove it to you and myself that I can do that. Entered a bit late, I see. Yeah, sadly, we're wrapping up now. We're ending it. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave the stream up. So anybody that is interested can watch the stream back, and then, yeah, it's going to be a lot easier for me. Less work. I was planning on making a video out of it, but I don't know. I'll at least leave the stream up for now until I've made a proper decision. But all right, I'm gonna be heading out now, so I'll be ending the stream. Thank you all for spending this time with me, and hope you've enjoyed yourself. Peace.